Hi everyone, welcome back to Black Girl Creative. My name is aleciarenece and I'm so happy that you are here. And today we're going to talk about creativity. I have gotten a lot of messages about people who say that they have lost track of their creativity or lost touch with their creativity, that they don't think they're creative anymore. A lot of people have said that, I'm creative, but I'm not creative that way. I'm not artistic. I'm not creative like this person. Right. And so we get in these positions where we are comparing our creativity to other people's creativity. And I just want to free you from the need to be creative like everybody else. You will never be creative like anybody else. Creativity is an intimate experience. It is an experience that only you can go through for yourself. We can be inspired by other people's creativity, but everything we do is going to be done differently because we are different. We are individuals. We are not like anybody else on this world, on this planet. Like, we might be similar to them, but we are not 100% like other people. So even if you're doing something like somebody else, it's never going to be the same. What somebody else does cannot be replicated because you're going to bring your own creativity to the same endeavor. So, creativity. Let's get back to creativity. Creativity is necessary for life. It is not this frivolous, distant thing. It is something we use every single day for survival, for fun, for chaos for some people, right? For pleasure. We use creativity every single day. We just don't recognize it. And I think it's because we tend to consider creativity to be similar to artistic, right? Creative and artistic can be two different things. I mean, to me, everything is art, right? So that's just my opinion. Everything is art. Everything is artistic. From the trees blooming to someone building, a sign, to marketing, all of it is creative. All of it is artistic because there is an art to it, right? But even if you're not a painter, a writer, a musician, a photographer, anything, singer, it doesn't matter. Like, even if you're not an artist, you are still creative. We use our creativity every single day. And I'll give you an example. People who are mathematicians, right? Teaching math to students, working out problems, you have to get creative in finding the solve for X. You have to be creative. You have to find, there's not one way to figure out formulas. If I said 2x plus 5 equals 7, right? People can do that formula to figure out X many, many different ways. There's not one way to do it. There are many ways. And the reason why there are many ways to do it is because people are creative in how they solve for X. And that really applies to any area of our lives, right? So if we're trying to cook a meal for our family, if all we have is noodles, right? We have to be creative with how we're going to do something. We have to be creative with the materials that we have. If all you have is noodles, shrimp, broccoli, and maybe like carrots, right? We get creative with the ingredients that we have to create a meal. You can make stir fry. You might make soup. Like, there are different things that you can do with your creativity. When you have lack, right? When you are poor, when you, again, lacking resources, lacking access, you get really creative about how to do your own thing. I'll use me as an example. I didn't really see a lot of Black focused places talking about independent artistry, right? And so because I didn't see that, I started to make my own podcast and share my own journey as an artist so that other people can see it, right? So I was able to take the things that I learned from, majority, like white places, and apply it to my own self in my own Black American woman way, right? And so Alicia way. And so if somebody else had that same intention, it will look very different, right? Or similar, but different. There'd be differences because I'm being creative with what I have. When I wanted to create a project for my music, I didn't have all the instrumentation that I wanted to have. I didn't have the drums. I don't know how to drum. I didn't have a keyboard, synth. I didn't have any of that stuff. And my husband told me to use my limitations to my benefit. And so I made a whole project with just using my voice, And it was so much fun to create. And that is creativity. And yes, it is art, but it's still showing you the example that I want to show you. So mothers raising their children, they have to be creative. Every child is not the same, right? It's not one size fits all. And they have to take time to learn their child, learn what works for them, learn how to discipline them that works, learning how to teach them in a way that works, show them, love them in a way that works, knowing their love language, all these different things, right? All that takes creativity. All of it takes creativity. Scientists are creative. In my opinion, all they do is play all day. They're free because their job requires them to make a hypothesis and to play around until they get to the solve that they're looking for. They're free to do that. And scientists, and again, I know that they are important to our society. And I'm not trying to make light of it, but I am saying that they are more free to be creative because there's not this pressure on them for their creativity to look a certain way. I mean, I'm sure they have their own things in their own, society. But, from the outside looking in, it's like, oh, y'all get to just like play around all day and not be so held to the outcomes of things. Like, yes, we want this outcome, but if it doesn't, we'll learn something else from this, right? And I'll talk more about the scientific method later. But either way, creativity is everywhere. We are very creative. Math is creative. Science is creative. Doctors are creative. Literally, when they're trying to solve an ailment in somebody's body, they try all these different remedies until something works, until something sticks. No one really knows, no one really has 100% solve for something. We're all just figuring out as we go, And so our creativity takes the center stage in our lives every single day. We just don't acknowledge it because we don't think that we think that if it's not art, then it's not creative. It's not creativity. And that's just not the case, right? And so I believe that a lot of creativity comes from limitations. You look at kids and you give them a box, right? And they're in a spaceship or, they're in a house, right? With their limited box, their imaginations can run wild. They can get really creative with what they have. And I really envy children, and I try really hard to be like a child in my approach to a lot of things because they're not held to an outcome, right? And if the thing doesn't work, if somebody says, we're not in a spaceship anymore, we're in a castle, they're like, okay, let's go with the castle, right? They flow. They're not rigid and stuck in one thing or one way of thinking. And it's really like an act of soft surrender. And I feel like a lot of us are frustrated because we're not surrendering. We are so tied to the outcome of things. We are so tied to the way things have to look or the way that we're taught that things have to look, right? We're so tied to these things that our creativity has no room to play. It has no room to function. It has no room to thrive because we are so stuck in our own way. We're so stuck. We're not creative. We're not being creative. And I feel like a lot of human frustration comes from the lack or the inability to be creative. And even determining what is artistic is usually determined by what is marketable by capitalism, right? To me, the lines, I'm in a parking lot right now. The lines on the parking is artistic, right? It's yellow. It's intentional, right? These are intentional because they want you to see it, right? I don't know, the way that people design traffic, that is intentional. That can be art. Have you seen the layout of certain cities? It's beautiful, right? Or notebooks or, book bags. I'm looking around, I'm in a car, the design of the car, yes, it is about function, but it's also about pleasure and enjoyment. Creativity is everywhere. Art is everywhere. And just because art is not validated by the capitalism or by, folks who are, high acidity and say, oh, well, this isn't really art. I go in museums all the time and I'd be like, I don't understand why this is in here. Who said that this is art, right? And it's usually, just gonna say it, there are usually some other artists in there, white folks. So I'm just like, okay, I know somebody who can do this. And I'm not making light of art, right? Because obviously there's a process. There's things I just don't understand. I'm ignorant towards the painting space, for example. I don't know what I'm doing. But in my mind, what sticks out to me is that there is a group of people who determine what is worthy and what is not. And your creativity is worthy. Your art is worthy. And just because it doesn't sit in, high regard to some people, it doesn't mean that it's not valid or important. Your creativity is literally how you survive. When you don't have the resources, when you don't have the means, when you're navigating crossing the street, when you're trying to figure out, oh, how do I not burn myself? When you're trying to figure out how not to hurt someone's feelings, right? To be in community with other people. When you're doing all these things, when you're trying to figure out the budget for something, that is getting creative. Your creativity is necessary for your life. So how dare we say that our creativity isn't important? How dare we say that our creativity, is invalid? And how dare we say that we are not creative? And so, no, you might not be creative like somebody else. You might not be creative like me. I might not be creative like somebody else or like you, but we are all creative and your creativity is valid. You're creative like you, and that is enough, right? And so how can we softly surrender in our creativity? Because your creativity has purpose and it's necessary for you, but also for other people. Everything we look at was created. Everything that exists now was created, right? It started with an idea and people got creative with that thing. That's why you see, all these different chicken sandwiches. I don't even know I feel like, I don't know what started it, but I know when Popeyes had their chicken sandwich, then later on, a year later, KFC had theirs. Chick-fil-A has been doing this. They true to this, not new to this. What else? There are other places that had chicken sandwiches with the same formula, chicken, pickles, and some sort of sauce, right? And bread. And so that is the base of that sandwich. But I bet you if you go to all those places, all those chickens taste different. All those chicken sandwiches taste different, right? They're able to be creative. And just because it's not marketable or just because it's not backed by capitalism does not make it invalid, right? So your creativity is not frivolous. It is not frivolous. and it deserves to be celebrated and honored. Your creativity is a gift. There's some people who literally cannot be creative and they're stuck. Your creativity can free other people. We see services all the time of like, you go to Target. Like, it's just like a Walmart. Target is a glorified Walmart. And I say that all the time. But I prefer Target because it makes me feel a certain way. And yes, they provide a service to me because I am buying things from them, right? Granted, it might be some stuff I don't need, but I'm still buying stuff from them. Your creativity gives service to other people too. And it might not be in a store. It might not be in a restaurant, but it is like to your kids or to your class or to your workplace, your work environment, right? These people benefit from your creativity, So let's start celebrating our creativity, right? Like, so in what ways are you creative? I want to hear your answers. Leave a comment below, DM me, send me an email. In what ways are you creative that you're overlooking, that you haven't honored or celebrated? And why are you downplaying your creativity? Is it because you feel like because you're not an artist, you're not creative? Or is it because low key, by calling yourself a creative, you're subjecting yourself to judgment, to other people's idea of what creativity is? And I was doing that for a long time. I was worried, not necessarily about how I felt about it, but how other people felt about what I would say. I'm a singer. People expect me, when I say that I'm a singer, to sound a certain way. They already have a preconceived idea of what singing looks like, of what art looks like. And if I don't meet their standards, then to them, I'm not validated. I'm not good enough. And so I was afraid of that judgment. So I stopped sharing that. And so for some people, they don't share because they don't want to make themselves vulnerable to other people's idea of what creativity is. Even if you're not making money from it, even if you're not famous from it, whatever the heck that means, right? For you, your creativity is still valid. If you just want to color, I used my coloring book yesterday and that was creative and it felt good because I wasn't good at it. I wasn't trying to be good at it. I was just trying to be. I was just trying to try something new. I was trying to be in the moment. And I was able to do that because I wasn't tied to this idea, this heavy and lofty idea of what creativity is. It's too heavy for most people to bear. But every single day we are creative and every single day our creativity helps other people. So that's the first thing I want to ask you is, how are you creative in ways that you are overlooking? How can we lean further into that creativity? Are there things you're curious about? Are there things that you're like, oh, I like doing this, but I don't know, I could never do that? What are those things? I want to hear them. And don't be down on yourself, right? Like, you're not lost. You haven't lost your creativity. There's no way that you have lost your creativity. None. Your creativity doesn't go anywhere. Your creativity, when you give it room to thrive, it grows. But creativity, we're using that every single day. It just might not look like the same thing that we're used to looking at, right? So we need to acknowledge what we have, to celebrate and honor it, and to show creativity to other people. So we all have the gift of creativity. We all have it. And I would say humans are especially gifted with creativity. I think about, even in a bad way, anxiety. We're creating ideas in our minds, right? That feel so real that we have a physical reaction to it. That's being creative, just in a negative way, right? It's having a negative impact. But we can use that same creativity to dream, to plan, right? To set goals. To really be honest about what we want from life, right? To vision. Like, we have the ability to create the realities we want to live in. Again, like I said, everything we're looking at was created. It was an idea. It's creativity. You know what I'm saying? And so our creativity sometimes works against us, but we have to harness that power to be able to use that creativity to vision better things, right? To take us from anxious to hopeful to inspired. And a lot of animals, they don't have that. Animals have instinct. They're in the moment. They're in right now, right? We have the ability to create things, good and bad, right? To impact people for the rest of their lives. And a good way that we can use creativity is creating space. When people come over our house, like to eat, to sup with us, we're creating a safe space. Like, I have a friend's house that we all hang out at. Every time we walk in, she lets us know this is your home too. Like, you're at home here, right? Like, and she creates that space for us to be able to be vulnerable, to be ourselves, right? To be loved. And that is important. You creating room and space for people, that's how you can use your creativity for good. This week, I really want you to take note of your creativity and take note of how often you are being creative in ways that you never really realize, right? And own the title of creative. You are a creative. You are. Even if it's not shared with other people. You are a creative, right? And the only thing you need to do to be a creative is to create. And we all do that. We create chaos and confusion. We create we create love for other people. We create or lovely experiences for other people. We create safe spaces. We create meals, like we create our days. Like, how many of you have been in a shower and you've been arguing with people in your mind in the shower? You're creating that moment, right? You're creating a moment for yourself to feel like, I know what I'm talking about. She crazy. Or like even to ruminate and reflect or imagine what I should have said or what I can say later, right? We are creative. It's not a question. You are creative. It's just about how you use that creativity and how you acknowledge it and use it in every single way, whether you're an artist, a mathematician, a scientist, a mother, right? A spouse, a teacher. It doesn't matter. Your creativity is valid. It is important. And I'm so glad that you are sharing it. Step into that title, step into the light of creativity. And I promise you, you will see yourself like unravel from that need to be marketable and to be able to be, to follow capitalist ideals. If you walk in and you say that my creativity is enough, right? And it's valid and it's beautiful, your position on creativity on yourself will change. So I hope this was helpful. If it was, let me know. And I will talk to you all in the next episode. Okay, bye-bye.